idolatry was never attached to Christ's wall or the disciples' wall. See, idolatry. That's why I'm perplexed to see Gentiles or people in this earth today in Catholic churches or in Islam, when there's a known rock they're walking around over there in the Middle East. When you go into the churches, you see idols, pictures of someone that's not Christ, statues all over the place, crosses all over the place, which is a clear signifier. These things are letting you know these are the gods of the Gentiles being worshiped. This is Babylonian. It's from the tower, right? So I'm perplexed how Christians or those who follow Christ, right, would say that they're in a true religion, a true place of worship. But what was delivered to you what was delivered to you is from idolaters. And it's clear in your church that there's idolatry going on. Right? So let's read it real quick, Elder Lawyer. Deuteronomy 7:6. Now, what separates Israel from the Gentile nations, one might ask?
Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6.
Come on.
For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
It says, Israel is a holy people unto God. Read.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself.
He hath taught Israel. He hath chosen Israel to be a special people unto himself. Now, this is the creator. This is the God who saved Noah and his sons through the flood. So out of all people, he chose Israel to be a special people
unto himself,
above
all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Now, this is the race God would bring forth his son through. Not a heathen people that follow the tenets of the Tower of Babel, and people who are without righteous judgment and law. The Gentiles were tainted at the Tower of Babel. See? Are you follow me? But he chose Israel to be a special people. Now, these are the people, the clean people, the righteous people he would bring forth his son through. Right? Now read Deuteronomy 10 and 15 for me.
Mm-hmm. And I have one more after that.
Yes.
Deuteronomy 10 and 15. Only the Lord had a delight in thy fathers to love them.
He only had a delight in our fathers to love them. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These men weren't idolaters. These men served the living God, and in spirit and in truth. These are the men Christ would come through. All the way down through Joseph's loins. From David all the way to Joseph. That's right. If you look at Matthew, when you look at the lineages in Matthew and Luke, in order for Christ to be king, he would have had to come through the bloodline of kings according to man's seed, which means if it wasn't for Israel falling to the Babylonians and the kingship stripped, even before Christ was born, if we didn't lose the throne, Joseph would have been king. Look at the lineage. Joseph would have been king, and Christ would have been the prince coming out of Joseph's loins. If it wasn't for us losing the kingship or the throne, Christ came through the line of kings according to the flesh. Now, the spirit, that's something different. The spirit in Christ was the first begotten of the Father from the beginning. The spirit that created all we see today. But he came through the line of kings. Through who? Through David's loins, according to the Bible. Not the Babylonian way that's being taught, that was taught at the Tower of Babel. Come on.
Only the Lord had a delight in thy fathers to love them.
To love them, read.
And he chose them, or he chose their seed after them.
And he chose their seed after them.
Even you above all people, as it is this day.
Even you. And this is why they're trying, the Gentile nations are trying to run interference between this word coming out, this gospel coming out to our people and us. Between the teachers and the people, they try to run interference. That's why they are attacking Israelites now. Because we're teaching that you're those special people. What they're afraid of. If you're those people and you begin to follow the law, wouldn't this world be a better place? Are they happy with us being heathens, cutthroats? Are they happy with us selling drugs to our people and not having no accountability for it to our God? Are they happy with us filling their jails? What's wrong with teaching that we're the children of Israel and through this, follow God's law? Wouldn't the world be a better place if all black people and all Hispanic people and all people in the earth who've been suffering under these religions began to follow the laws of God and treat humanity according to those laws? What's the problem? I don't understand where the problem is. Would you rather have it like this? Us believing we're heathens and not accountable to anything? I think so. What about you? Come on.
Yes, sir. Reading Deuteronomy 37 or 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee.
Ask thy father, and he will show thee.
Thy elders, and they will tell thee.
And thy elders will tell thee. Read.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance.
He divided to the nations their land, their inheritance.
When he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
He set the bounds of the nation according to what the number of the children of Israel. Now, when it says he set the bounds according to the number of the nation of Israel, it's speaking of what? He divided the earth 70 ways. The number of the children of Israel that went into Egypt was 70. He split the earth, all of the Gentile nations now, in 70 separate divisions under 70 original languages. It was only the Hebrews or the Israelites who would keep the true language pure. Go ahead, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse 9. For the Lord's portion is his people.
The Lord's portion. Now, out of all of those divisions of Gentiles and people who were divided at the tower, the Most High made a portion for himself. Mm-hmm. His people, Israel, the Prince of God. Read.
Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
And Jacob is the lot of God's inheritance, which means all of the nations were separated under 70 separate gods. Okay. What happened here? When the Most High seen them building the tower, the angels at the high council said, we must stop them. Nothing in their mind nothing will stop them from coming into our realm if we let them alone. Read Genesis 11 yourself. And he sent down 70 angels to split the tongues. Well, guess what? Those 70 angels became the gods over the 70 divisions. And they began to make idols in these 70 divisions. Hence began the spirit of idolatry, where they would worship the fallen gods. When our people, there was no need to worship the fallen gods. Why? You got it. We became God's portion. Mm-hmm. The Most High severed from amongst all nations a people for himself. See, and this is why all the other Gentile religions are against the Bible. Because the Bible is the history of how their religions began under lesser gods. And the fact that the Most High chose us instead of them. This is what they envy. And this is why they're separating us and keeping us void of the understanding of the Bible by running interference with their idolatrous, heathenistic religions. Okay. Now, and this is not to say that there aren't positive tenets taught in their religions. But here's the whole thing. There's nothing positive in their religions being taught that you can't find in the Bible, separated from their idolatry. That's the whole point. So we're not saying that it's all bad and there's nothing good in it. Even the tree of good and evil had good in it. Yes, you're going to find good in some of these religions, but there's nothing in those religions that's good that you can't find in your record, the Bible, separate from the idolatry and the witchcraft and sorcery and evil that came with the fall at the Tower of Babel. Are you following me?
Yes,
Anything
sir.
else, Lloyd?
Yes, sir. Simply what happened was, you have to remember, we showed earlier that all of these sons proceeded forth from Noah. And Noah taught all of his sons the right way. So as they started to go off and build their own religions, they kept some of those original tenets, those good tenets from Noah, but they began to corrupt them with idol worship. So that's why, as you were mentioning, you're going to find some good principles that may be biblical, that may be righteous, but remember, they came from Noah, but are corruptions of that original pure religion, if you will.
Exactly. Now, the Bible tells us that Israel is our God's portion. Okay? Now, for those who don't know, our God name is Ahiah, right? The I am that I am, the all that exists, who created all gods. He's the God of all gods. He created the spirit that would one day become Christ in our earth, the path. Okay? Christ was created by the Most High in the beginning and became the creator of heaven and earth. Colossians 1:13 on down. I'm speaking of the spirit that's in Christ. Our God isn't Buddha. Our God isn't Allah. Okay. Our God, we don't uphold the Messiah as God himself. That's sacrilege. That's evil. That's the triune teaching. Christ isn't God. He's the Son of God. He told you himself who he was. He's the Son of God. We worship the Father, right? Through Christ's path. Christ is the way, the truth, the life. No man cometh to the Father but by him. Separated. Now they are one in one mind, but they're separated. When the Lord said in Genesis 1:1, and God created the heaven and earth, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was an Elohim, which means it's a plural God, not one. So you can't use John 1:1 and say, well, the Word was God, so he's God. No, that teaching is disrespect of the God who Christ came from. Only Satan would teach the Son against his Father. You got it? Now, idolatry is attached to all Gentile nations. And when the Lord saved us from the hand of the Gentile nations, like the Egyptians, we went out into the wilderness at Mount Sinai, and our God, who separated us from the Gentiles, gave us the law. Now, automatically, the law would separate us from heathens, from Gentiles who were worshiping anything now, doing anything. Okay. There's no sexual boundaries on some of these people. Even in their religions, they deal with all types of perversions and all that. Well, the Most High said, no, you're my people. I'm not going to have you operating like the Gentiles, like the heathens, like the Egyptians. Okay. You're going to have sexual boundaries here. You're going to understand the responsibility that comes with laying with a husband or laying with a wife or having a family. Because my name is in you, Israel. You're going to have boundaries. You will have order. It'll be heaven on earth with you people. They'll look at you and see how far Noah's sons has fallen. Right? So in Exodus 20, he gave us the law. Right? He gave us the law. Let's go there real quick. Let's tear down the idolatrous part first.
Exodus chapter 20, verse number 1.
Read.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God.
I am the Lord thy God.
Which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
Which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
Out of the house of bondage.
Out of slavery. Read.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Read it again.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Why would God make that statement to the children of Israel? Thou shalt have no other God before me. Because the Gentiles were already at this time worshiping many gods in their religion. This is Islam today. This is Christianity today, believe it or not. The Christianity today has nothing to do with the doctrine Christ taught to the disciples. Zero. It's all Babylonian. Has nothing to do with it. On top of that, Buddhist, Middle Eastern, Zoroastrian, all these religions are lesser religions, folks. They're lesser religions. They decay mankind. They deter us from our God. Read.
Verse number 4. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
Do not make things to worship it. Okay. All things in the earth were made to serve you. How can you relegate yourself to an earthen pot that you have shaped and now bow to worship? When I made the earth, man, to serve you. See, how can you put a curtain around a rock and march around it and make it a holy place? Huh? How can you do that? You're the man that shaped the image. You made the image to be worshiped, to bow to. Are you not more powerful than the statue you've just chiseled and shaped? You made the statue, and now the statue has power over you and your family. Idolatry have turned man backward. It's a Gentile tenet. It was a form of control. In the Old Testament, people ask, well, why did Gentiles ever use or shape idols? Right? Don't forget, Israel, our father, would send Yeshua on the heavenly tabernacle amongst the Levites once a year during the Day of Atonement. His tabernacle was amongst men. I'm speaking of our God. He would come amongst us. Right? So his presence was always known until we begin to follow the way of the Gentiles amongst our hierarchy. Now, what happened in the Old Testament is the Gentiles, back then there wasn't television, you didn't have the internet, no computers or nothing. So to instill the superstition or the fear of a God amongst the people, it was ordered from the judges, your politicians and all those, that each person should have a resemblance of their God to reverence him, to keep the tradition in the minds of our children, or their children, Gentile children. So they began to shape different idols to mimic the gods as a constant reminder of who they were serving. Hence began the spirit of idolatry amongst the Gentiles. So when you see Mary and all these different, no, it's not Mary at all. These are different deities, reminders of the gods who have always controlled Gentiles. What you have, Elder Lawyer?
Yes, sir. I'm going to read here Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, starting from verse 1. Wisdom of Solomon 13, verse 1. Surely vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of God, and could not out of those good things that are seen know him that is, neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the workmaster.
Come on.
But deemed either fire or wind or the swift air or the circle of the stars or the violet water or the lights of heaven to be the gods which govern the world.
Exactly. So hence the beginning of paganism. They began to worship the air, the wind, the earth, the stars, instead of the God that made all of what I've just mentioned. That's pagan. That's paganism. Oh, I respect Mother Earth. People are the problem. Die already. Oh, I say this I say this particular thing for the wind, that he can bless us with rain and all this. We're reading it out of our Bible. This is why they don't want you to read the Bible, because this identifies the tenets of Satanism. This described the Satanists, the pagans. Okay. They look to the stars and say, give me my future. I want to see my future. What sign am I? Or what attribute am I under this star? Pagan, idolater, Satanist. See, this is how God is viewing the earth. Right? Finish, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse 3. With whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods, let them know how much better the Lord of them is. For the first author of beauty hath created them. But if they were astonished at the power and virtue, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them. For by the greatness and beauty of the creatures, proportionately, the maker of them is seen.
Exactly. So the pagans can worship the earth and the wind and pray for rain, right? And we'll worship the God who made the earth, who sends the wind and sends the rain. See the difference? A pagan will worship or serve or sacrifice to each god for individual things. Hence the spirit of polytheism, or the belief of many gods. Because they know, they understand that there's a power source behind all we experience within the earth. Rain, snow, the seasons changing. There is a power that's sent to execute these particular actions within the earth.
Right. Courses of nature.
The courses of nature. Right? So, but instead of them giving honor to our God who created the powers that bring forth the rain, snow, and change the leaves and do what they do, they disrespect God by worshiping the angels who are behind the courses of nature. And it's what Paul warned us of, the involuntary worshiping of angels. Okay? That's the difference between us being Israelites and Gentiles. Gentiles hate the God of Israel. And that's the reason it took some children of slaves coming years later, After years later, from our foreparents being dragged from the shores of Africa to America through slave ships, through serving in the cotton fields to build in America. That's why it took children of slaves years later to actually deliver God's name, when the Gentiles knew his name the whole time. They hate him. Because why? He chose us. That's why. He chose us. Right? And don't say you don't hate him. You do hate him. I don't care what religion you're dealing with. You do hate him. Because if you didn't hate him, there would be no such religion as Islam. Everyone would just unite and serve one God. You do hate him. Okay? You do hate him. Don't come with that weak claim. Oh, well, we just all, we all worship him differently, but at the pinnacle it's still the same God. What? God is one. He changed not. There's no way the Most High would set up a kingdom and have people separately worship him differently. And in heaven, there's order. It's been order there since the beginning. And all this disorder and confusion that comes with this man believing God, they should serve God this way. And another race saying, well, I should serve God this way. The Lord is not the author of confusion. There's total order in heaven. So this is why it took children of slaves to come at the very end to try to bring some order here according to God's law, because the Christians aren't following it. Islam isn't following it, and the earth is going to hell in a handbasket. And it's being steered by idolatrous religions. And the only thing we're saying right now is our people, God's people, get out of get out of these religions. Okay, get out of them, come out of them. They're on a crash course. They're on a crash trajectory to hell. Get out of them. It took slaves, children of slaves, to bring this information that isn't taught in any institution on earth. This is what you would call a spiritual intervention by God's people now. Mm-hmm. Right? Come on.
Wisdom of Solomon 13, verse 6. But yet for this they are less to be the blamed, for they peradventure err, seeking God and desirous to find him.
Come on.
For being conversant in his works, they search him diligently and believe their sight, because the things are beautiful that are seen. Howbeit, neither are they to be pardoned. For if they are able to know so much that they could aim at the world, how did they not sooner find out the Lord thereof? But miserable are they, and in dead things is their hope.
That means if you can search the earth and find evolution and do all this research and build these universities and have all this technology, how can you, with all these finances and technology and ingenuity, how can you come to a conclusion that there is no God? Mm-hmm. This is what is being broken down in Wisdom of Solomon. You can only respect that there's a mind, a God behind all of this great, all that's within this great creation. The seasons change on time according to a 364-day course, perfect order. But yet we came out of a big bang. How can you have all this technology, understanding, and knowledge and disrespect the God who made everything? That's why the Bible tells us, and that's why Paul said, the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. All the knowledge you have, but don't have enough sense to understand that this earth, this great, beautiful creation must have came from one great mind. Mm-hmm. Okay, one. Come on.
Verse 10. But miserable are they, and in dead things is their hope, who called them gods, which are the works of men's hands.
Come on.
Gold and silver to show art in, and resemblances of beasts, or a stone good for nothing, the work of an ancient hand. Now a carpenter that fell of timber, after he has sawn down a tree meet for the purpose, and have taken off the bark skillfully round about, and have wrought in handsomely, and made a vessel thereof fit for the service of man's life, and after spending the refuse of his work to dress his meat, he filleth himself, and taking the very refuse amongst those which serve to no use, being a crooked piece of wood and full of knots, have carved it diligently, when he hath nothing else to do, and formed it by the skill of his understanding, and fashioned it to the image of a man.
And fashioned it to the image of a man. All that work, losing life to fashion something after a man, which means he's even greater than what he's fashioning. The Most High already made man in his perfection. You're going to make a lesser image of a man to bow to it. Read.
And it's deep because it's mentioning this is the same wood he would use to make something inanimate, like this desk. You'll take the wood to make this desk, use the refuse of the wood to burn in the fire to eat your food, and then worship that same exact wood.
Like, okay, let me see what to do with this tree. Okay, I'm going to make this a footstool.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to make a footstool. Maybe I'll get a few toothpicks out of this. But you know what? There's a piece of wood over there. The same wood I just made a toothpick out of. You know what? Hey, let me shape me a God to worship for my family. Can you see why they hate our prophets and hate our Bible? Because we show how simple the nations are. Oh, you can't read that Bible, it's tampered with. Now, I don't read that. No, we show how ridiculous. The Bible proves and shows how ridiculous this world is and what we've come to accept. And how foolish the world has become. This is why they don't want you reading it. Because the Bible is really, in a nutshell, common sense. That's what the Bible is. It's common sense. Now, there's a lot I want to cover, so let's just jump here, because one thing, we showed who the Gentiles are, right? But now we have to show you what separates us from the Gentiles. First of all, our God chose us to be a special people. He gave us law, right? In Exodus 20, it tells us that we're not to bow to any idols. And also it gives us what you would call a code to be followed amongst our people. So when you read the laws of God, this is how you know whether or not your people are off code. See, this is how you know if they're off code. Now you can hold your people accountable, like the pastor I had, and we're going to get him on. I think he's going to come on this coming Wednesday, if it be the Lord's will, where he couldn't explain why he was worshiping on Sunday. He couldn't explain it because it's nowhere in the Bible. So I asked him, if I just showed you 30 scriptures proving that the Holy Convocation is the Sabbath. And then he admitted on the radio show that, Sunday worship is a tradition of man, but yet was hell-bent, yes, he was hell-bent on upholding Sunday. See, here's the key point, though, because they'll say, and it seems like they're actually reading from some type of blueprint that they've sent out to all the pastors. When you ask about Sunday, every pastor's answer is, well, I worship God every day of the week. As if there must be an email going out to all pastors to answer it that way. I didn't ask you how many days you worship Christ or worship him. Why did you make Sunday a holy convocation? That's the question. Sunday is a day that everyone in your church know to gather together. That's a holy convocation. And the Bible only ordered the earth through God to hallow the Sabbath for a holy gathering from week to week as a sign between man and who? The Most High. So they'll bounce around and dance around. And at one point, I was getting frustrated, not because of him. The frustration was, man, there's people who believe in him and believe that what he's teaching is true. So my frustration just wasn't for him. There's people who's looking at this guy as a path towards, to the kingdom of heaven and believe that he has the knowledge to lead them there. That was my frustration. That you speak to every pastor and ask a pastor, where do you find Sunday worship? In the Bible. Well, you don't follow, it's tradition. Well, did God tell you to do that? Well, no, it's no. So why are you doing it? If there's only two masters, God and Satan. That's it. Mm-hmm. So if you're not doing it, not told by God to do it, why are you doing it and leading your people into it? Study to show thyself approved unto God. A workman not need to be ashamed, by rightly dividing the word of truth. If God didn't say do it, it's simple. Shut it down. That's it. There's nothing you're doing on Sunday that you cannot do on Saturday.